Polishing your paint or paint correction is something that any car enthusiast can learn how to do. But there are some common mistakes that can either kill your results, waste your time, or even damage your car. So in this video, I'm going to share exactly what to avoid if you want to make your paint look wet and glossy again. But real quick, I want to let you know about Neckbreaker, my free course that's filled with tips to make your car stand out from the crowd. Just hit the link below and put your email address in and you'll get access 100% free. It'll take you about 30 minutes or so to watch through, so get in there if you want your car to turn heads. Mistake number one is using the wrong tool for the job. If you're doing a paint correction, it's important to use the right type of polisher depending on how severely damaged the paint job is. Luckily, there's only a few different types of polishers to choose from. You have a rotary polisher, a dual action polisher, and a forced rotation polisher, which is kind of like a combination of the two. These also come in different sizes, but we'll get to that in a minute. We can rule out the rotary polisher right off the bat if you're a beginner. They can cause a lot of damage when they're in the wrong hands, but when they're in the right hands, they're amazing. If you don't have the experience, polishing a car with a rotary is like somebody that's never raced a car before jumping behind the wheel of a Top Fuel dragster. You should probably hit the Friday night test and tune with your Toyota Corolla a few times first. On the other hand, thinking that you can transform a completely trashed paint job into a show car finish with nothing more than a DA is a bad idea too. That's a job for a rotary, and maybe even some wet sanding beforehand. Trying to remove all of those deep scratches with a DA is going to take you forever. It'll also overheat the paint, and you run the risk of blistering or delaminating it. Remember, paint expands and contracts with temperature, so if you get it too hot, you could run into some real problems. A good rule of thumb is that if you can't hold your bare hand on the paint right after you pull your machine off, it's probably getting too hot. Damage isn't the only concern here though. Since the paint expands with heat, it can actually cause scratches and etch marks to disappear temporarily. You might think that you finished a panel because the results look good, but when you look back a few hours later, a bunch of the scratches have reappeared. It's because the paint was swelled when you inspected it and then shrunk back down when it cooled off. So if you have no choice but to tackle a job like that with only a DA, just understand that it's going to take you way longer than you think it will. You have to really be patient and take your time. Now let's talk about polisher size. And if you're just doing a paint enhancement, just trying to gloss up your paint again, you can get away with just using one size of pad, likely a 5 or a 6 inch like this. You're just mowing the whole thing down loosely. You're not trying to remove every single scratch from every tight corner. A full-on paint correction is totally different though. If you want a tight correction, the amount of contact that your pad has is way more important. Okay, so here you can see that we have this side molding on my car, and then the top of the side skirt here. These are both protruding out from the actual fender here. So if I'm trying to polish this section of the fender, using a bigger pad, I'm gonna end up banging into this and banging into this, and I'm not gonna come into contact right here or right here. I might get lucky and be able to polish this part, but it's not gonna have enough contact to actually fully polish the area. Check this out. I'm trying to shine a light through so you can kind of see how it lines up. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but I'm not gonna be able to get in there tight. Here are the 3 different options that I switch between. I have a 5 inch, 3 inch, a 1 inch machine like this. Let me show you how and where I use them. So if I were to polish this rear section of my MR2, I would be using the bigger 5 or 6 inch pad back here, and I would drop down to my 3 inch pad for these kind of spots in here, and for over here as well. And then for this section right here, I would be using a 1 inch pad. Some people will spend hours researching and comparing compounds and polishes, thinking that there's going to be some kind of best of the best product. There isn't. Sure, some might work better than others or be more versatile, but they'll all get the job done if you figure out how to work with them. Learning proper technique and how to pay attention to what the paint needs in the moment is a far more effective use of your time. Let's do a little experiment. This is the compound that I used on my dad's Camaro. It's Meguiar's M100. And this is a new product from a company that everybody has heard of. Now, on this spare Tacoma door, I have some 2000 grit sanding marks. So let's compare the two products. We'll use M100, the really good compound, on this side, and on this side, we'll test out the new one, see if there's any difference, if one's better than the other. All right, we'll start with the new one, since I already have it on my pad. Quite hot. We definitely removed our sanding marks. So I'm gonna swap my pad out. I don't want to contaminate. This needs to be a proper test. You saw that I didn't work that for very long. If I was gonna work on that more, I would have definitely adjusted my technique and lowered the speeds down a little bit, but I'm trying to work quickly here to get this demonstration done in this video, obviously. Now, let's move on to M100 here, the tried and true. Obviously, if I was going for perfection and actually polishing a car, I'd be spending a lot more time on both of these sides, but that also removed the sanding marks. Let me bring you in and show you the results. This is pretty cool. So remember, this top section was the new polish that I tried, and then right here was Meguiar's M100. So you can see in both cases, we did get the sanding marks out. We are back to pretty good clarity here. This is to be expected. This is my favorite compound. As we come over here, hang on, let me get those are the sanding marks. So we removed the sanding marks here with M100 from Meguiar's, and then the new polish, not as good, but we definitely removed the sanding marks. Look at the difference between there and there. Now, the first thing that I noticed about this new product was the smell. It's got a very strong smell to it, but I also noticed that it's like, I wouldn't say necessarily runnier, it's kind of stringier than some of the other polishes and compounds that I've used. It's almost kind of like gummy, like a gummy consistency. I also noticed that it didn't do as good of a job of transferring heat. So I found the panel was getting hot really quick. If I was gonna be using this more, I would want to dial the speed back a little bit and be a little bit more careful. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed, the difference between using this new product and then my old favorite M100. So what was that mystery new compound I was using? Toothpaste. Yeah, it certainly didn't work as well, but once I figured out how to finesse it, it definitely got the job done. Now, this doesn't mean that I recommend polishing your car with toothpaste. I'm just trying to make a point here. You don't need a shelf full of bottles unless you're running a professional detailing shop. But Tim, so-and-so company has brand new abrasives. I don't care. But Mr. Organizer ranked this polish at the top of his S tier list. Shut up, I don't care. It's all mostly marketing. These guys are all in cahoots to promote each other's products. This bottle of M100 from Meguiar's is like 5 years old. Still an absolute weapon at removing swirl marks. All that time that you spent listening to those dorks should have been spent with your polisher in your hands practicing how to use it. Whew, that got a little spicy. The next mistake is not working clean. Whenever you polish a car, you're removing a small layer of clear coat. That's what makes the scratches disappear. That means that as you work, your pad fills up with residue, which is basically just a mixture of spent product and clear coat. Now, if you start with a fresh pad and then do an entire car with it non-stop, your results are going to be awful. The first couple of panels will probably look really good, but then as you work your way around the rest of the car, your pad is going to fill up with residue. And when your pad gets clogged up, either the product stops being effective, or even worse, if you have soft paint, you could be putting new scratches into it as you polish. Some people will blame either the pad manufacturer or the product, or they'll claim that the paint on the other side of the car is really hard or something. The reality is, there isn't anything wrong with your pad or your polish. You're just not working clean. So what are you supposed to do about it? Well, some people swear by those pad washers. They're like $200 or $300, and it's basically just a bucket that you stick your polisher in, scrub your pad clean, and then you carry on. But there are some downsides to this aside from the cost. It soaks the pad in order to clean it. And while you can spin it dry while it's on the polisher, it'll still be damp. Now, if you have water trapped in your pad, it's going to dilute the polish that you're using. Will it be as effective? Well, the only time I've ever mixed water with a polish has been when I'm working on ultra soft paint and I purposely wanted to make the polish less aggressive. So maybe there's your answer. Okay, so then maybe some people will argue that you have to dry the pad off by spinning it on the polisher and then dry it off again with compressed air or rubbing it with a microfiber towel or something. Cool. How much time have you been away from the car now dinking around with your pad? By the time you set up your pad washer and clean your pad, then dry it off, and then dry it off a different way, I can be halfway done the next panel already. And when you finally finish the rest of the car, I'm already face deep in my second bag of Doritos, brother. Also, if you agree that it was a crime to get rid of the ketchup flavor, let me know in the comments. So the answer is to have multiple pads and then simply switch them out once they fill up with residue. And blow your pad out with compressed air often. This guarantees that the last panel you polish will have the exact same results as the first one that you did. Then when you're done the whole car, you bring your stack of pads in and clean them all up together. Truth be told, I don't care whether you use a pad washer or you do it my way. What really matters is that you work with a clean pad one way or another. A lot of you guys are using way too much product on your pad, and some are using too little. All you need is 3 or 4 pea-sized drops in most cases, unless you're dealing with some kind of a special circumstance. Now, it might be tempting to think that if some is good, then more must be better. But using too much polish will actually flood the pad and cause it to be less effective at cutting. So it's better to use the proper amount and let the abrasiveness of the pad actually bite in so that it can do its job. Now, how you apply the product to your pad is nowhere near as important as some of these YouTube detailers make it seem. You don't need to take the time to carefully measure out exact equal size drops of product on your pad. The whole pea-sized drop thing is just like a rough estimate. Basically, just put a small amount on your pad and get to work, dude. This is for resting, not working. Having proper control of your machine, as well as the visibility to see what you're actually working on in your spotlight, is very, very important. So if you're gonna sit on a stool and then try to polish down here, your results are gonna suck. It's just lazy work, unless you've got an injury or a disability or something. In that case, I hope you feel better. There's no way you can have a proper sight line with your inspection lights to see the scratches that you're supposed to be removing when you're all the way up here. You're also guaranteed to be putting uneven pressure on your polisher when you're working on it down here, which is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. You want to be like a CNC machine, super consistent with your pressure. A kneeling pad like this is golden for reaching like the middle section of a car like this, but for the lower areas, you're better off actually getting right down on the ground if you don't have a lift. Get serious, stay focused, and get the job done. Save the lounging for after the car is complete and you want to relax and admire the results of your hard work. Now we got to talk about excessive taping. Taping off sensitive parts of your car before you start polishing is definitely a great idea. But some people go way overboard. There's no reason to mask off the rest of the car as if you're trying to avoid overspray at a body shop. Just tape off the areas that your polishing pad might come into contact with. For example, taping off your headlights is a good idea because if you hit those with your abrasive polishing pad, you can damage the UV coating on them and then that's going to cause them to turn yellow prematurely. But that doesn't mean that you have to cover the whole lens with tape. Mask off the edges near the paint that you're polishing and move on. Anything more is just a waste of tape. Now the same would go for your taillights here as well, however, there's actually no need to cover them up at all. That's because you should be polishing them along with your paint if you want to do a proper job. If they're red or amber plastic, hit them with your buffer and get them back to looking nice and wet and glossy just like your paint. I prefer to only tape off sections of a car that I'm working on at the time. That way I can still open the doors and trunk lid and hood and stuff if I need to, and it saves a whole bunch on tape too. And you can reuse it at least once. There's no reason to use a brand new piece of tape every single time. And one more thing, stop doing 50-50 tape lines. Nobody ever talks about this, but you're literally polishing a shelf into your clear coat. It might not be super noticeable on anything less than concourse style polishing jobs, but I'm a firm believer in doing things the right way, regardless of the value of the car. And on top of that, you're running your polisher directly on the tape at full speed. That's pulling residue from the tape up into your pad and potentially contaminating it. And a contaminated pad can ruin your results, or even worse, cause new scratches or marring in your paint job. If you absolutely have to get a 50-50 before and after shot, use two panels that are side by side, like a door and a fender. Adjust your lighting to show both sides so that your gap is acting as your tape line. That way, you don't have to worry about anything. It's so easy to get caught up in chasing scratches and trying to achieve perfection when you're polishing a car. Most of the time, it's not worth it. Your car has only so much clear coat on it. And every time you run your polisher across it, you're removing some. And just like your Uncle Jimmy's hairline, that crap isn't just gonna grow back on its own. Sometimes it's better to settle for rounding off the edges of a scratch rather than trying to remove it completely. If you go for it and maybe it survives and you avoid burning through, but what's it gonna look like a few years later after sitting out in the hot sun? Clear coat fails on cars that have never been polished before. Think about that. By removing more of that protective clear coat, you're only increasing those chances. That's also why it's important to protect your paint, but you get the idea. The goal here is to make the car look better and not worse. Do no harm. Like a doctor, only dumber. Paint correction truly is a game of decision making. Should you push to get it as perfect as possible or hold back to preserve it in the long run? The truth is, a full-on paint correction can be way too aggressive for some cars. For example, if I would have done it on this car the last time I polished it, I would have burnt right through to the primer. It's that thin. In that video that I did with that M3 where I tried to make it shine without polishing the paint wasn't just to be creative for funsies. The paint was literally chipping off of that thing and I didn't want to remove a whole sheet of it with my polisher. I made a judgment call to keep it safe. Sometimes it's better to just either not touch the paint at all or stick with a more gentle strategy like a paint enhancement instead. You're still polishing it to make it super glossy, but you're not removing anywhere near as much clear coat because you're not focusing on removing all those deep scratches. If you want me to teach you how to do exactly that, there's a link below to my guide. And maybe you don't want to give me your money. That's cool. There's also a link down below to Neckbreaker, my free course to make your car look better than everyone else's. I can't help you to be less ugly, but I can help you to make your car look good. And if you want to see the results you can get from a more gentle approach like a paint enhancement, watch this video next. All right, better put the toothpaste back before she finds out I took it.